morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Tuesday, the third day of January of the year 2023. It is Tuesday of the second week of Christmas. It is the 10th day of Christmas. So I think it's 10 Lords of Leaping. Yeah, 10 Lords of Leaping, 9 days dancing. Yeah, so if you're keeping up with the Christmas Carol of the 12 Days of Christmas, today is 10 Lords of Leaping. So coming to you this morning from Toronto, unfortunately in all of its grayness because it is winter, and in Ontario, in Canada, in Western New York, in the northern parts of our country, winter usually is gray. So that's what it is today. But this is Nathan Phillips Square, and behind me over here is the iconic City Hall of Toronto, the modern City Hall of Toronto, as opposed to the old City Hall of Toronto, which is right over here. Nathan Phillips Square is kind of the central square of Toronto, and as you see, there's a skating rink and people skating on it, because in the mornings in Toronto during the winter, you just bring your skates and you come to skate. I didn't bring any skates, so I can't skate. But if I had the skates, I'd be out there skating. So it's an amazing kind of a thing. No, it's not necessarily running and things like that, only in the cities, but skating here. Behind the skating rink on the other side of Nathan Phillips Square is Osgoode Hall, which houses the Superior Courts of Canada, as well as the Law Society of Upper Canada. Again, a lot of history that happens here in Nathan Phillips Square here in Toronto. But on this, again, it's a cold day. It's not really all that cold. It should be colder here, but because of all kinds of things, it's not. So it's in its 30s, I think. But on this Tuesday of the second week of Christmas, we continue to hear from the first letter of John, which makes that wonderful statement that we are God's children now that God has become one like us to understand our lives. And we are God's children because that is who we are. That is what we are. Again, this reality and this truth of whom what we are, not having had to merit it or to earn it or to deserve it, but basically to have God bring it to us, have God create us originally to be always that way, to be God's children, and for us to remember that and for us to rejoice over that is what this season of Christmas is about. Remembering that very fact is sometimes very difficult, particularly in the world in which we live, in which we can seem that we are anything but God's children, and sometimes the church's focus upon sin, upon sin, upon sin, upon sin, makes the belief that we can be God's children something that is very far and unattainable. But the truth is that God becomes one like us to be able to reinforce for us always what it means to be God's children, what it means to live in that way, and to live in that identity, and live out of that truth and that reality in our own lives. We fail when we fail to do that. We fail to recognize, we fail to understand basically the truth of who and what we are as images and likeness of God, which is always what Christmas, the season of Christmas, tries to emphasize in our lives again, what it means to be images and likenesses of God, because God becoming one like us reinforces the fact that we are one like God. In the gospel today, we have John's continuation, John's gospel of the Baptist, pointing out who Jesus is, and basically that's what he does in today's gospel, is to point out here is the Lamb of God, and what he says about it is important. Here's the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, not the sins of the world. Again, when we do the behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, we pluralize that, and sometimes again it focuses upon our own brokenness and our own navel-gazing and all of our faults and our own failings. In John's gospel, it is sin in the singular, meaning all that is broken, all that is not right, all that is wrong, all that has lost its way, all that has created woe and sorrow and pain. Christ comes to take that all away, and to create the world anew. Again, not to create a new world, not to create a new civilization, not to create a new humanity, but to create what is anew, because God knows that it is good, because God created it to be good. Again, the incarnation, God becoming one like us, reinforces the goodness of who and what we are as creations of God. Something that we have to remember always, something we can never ever forget, because when we do, we lose our ability to witness to the more that life has to offer us, the more that God gives to us, the more that is the wonder of our humanity in itself. Continue blessed Christmas, St. Francis and people of God, and may the Lord give you his peace.